Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. I am so effing late. I'm just looking at the time, realizing it's 6:35 my time, so I'm like almost. Well, I like to be starting at 6:20, but so 5 minutes late. Oh man, I'm having a little bit of platform issues. Is kind of what's going on here. Oh, you know what? It's probably because. Okay. So, first of all, get myself so that I can hear the music. There we go. I think I should be able to just restart it, but NinjaTrader wouldn't start up. Okay, so is it gonna... Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. We're good. We just have to wait a little bit and then we can get into the charts a little bit. Actually, so looking at... oh, that's interesting. Am I missing something? Because that is a reasonably sized move for a Monday. Oh, we did. We had... No. Is that right? Yeah, we had New York Fed manufacturing negative 31.8 versus an expected negative 4. Wow. That is very interesting. Okay, it looks like we are connected and we are getting to... Okay, cool. Everything's good. So let's come in and look at... Yeah, bad news is good, kind of. I don't know. You know what? So before I get into the charts, the biggest thing that we're watching now at this point in the treasuries is this massive short position that we've had in the treasuries. We've been talking about it for a while. I think when we first identified this, we didn't really know what was going on. Actually, I did. I was a little slower, and there is like a basis trade going on. So what happens is the futures, the price on the futures is higher than the price on the cash treasury. So you sell the future and you buy the treasury, right? And then you make, and then as it gets closer to the payment date or whatever, that basis decreases and you make money. Okay, so this is like a trade that you do, and it's highly leveraged. So you can put like tons and tons of treasuries on doing this, right? With leverage, and everything's fine unless something crazy happens. Right? If something crazy happens, then the price of the futures skyrockets, and you're losing money. And hopefully you have enough margin, because if you don't, you're forced out of the position, and you have to puke out of it, right? So we're kind of sitting here on this like ticking time bomb, and anytime that we see something bad happens and causes the treasuries to move up, you run the risk of like all of this liquidity here in the treasuries just evaporating, right? And the whole thing is that like have been moving into like a low volatility regime, and there's not a whole lot of big news for the rest of the month, you know? So like the trade should work out for them, but there are so many things that could go wrong. It's like, it's such a risky trade. Like there's a reason that basis was so high, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at here. And so to see them move up that much is a little interesting. It's not enough to like scare, I mean, the liquidity is still there and everything, but oh man, negative 31.8. That is such a bad piece of news. I mean, this really is like everything except for the jobs numbers suggests that we're going into a recession, right? Okay, let's come to the charts. Check up on a couple of other things. Okay, so there's the treasuries. You can see that the move up that we're having is mostly a retracement of the overnight move that we've had. Remember that it was only like last week that we were up at 116 even, right? And what was the news that we had on Friday? I don't even remember. The move down on May 12th was, man, it's been such a long week. Such a long weekend, I guess. Is what I should say. What was it last week? No, it was just consumer sentiment. I remember consumer sentiment being pretty bad. Oh, but that's right. But the inflation expectations went up. That's right. Okay. Cool. Anyways, ES, man, what a mess in ES. That chart is just so ugly to me. I guess we need to zoom out a little bit, but man, even you zoom out, what a mess. What a mess. Oil, well, oil recovering a little bit today. Gold and silver going sideways after getting hit last Thursday. Oh man, it looks so ugly in silver. Kaba's still kind of struggling to get its head above water again. And then what do we got over here? The dollar. The dollar moving up again, up above 102 now. And Bitcoin actually moving up today. Interesting. Well, the action in Bitcoin has been a little confusing, you know, because it's struggled from here. But actually, every time that it gets sold off really hard, it doesn't do too much damage. So. Okay, so. Now, as for me, I'm feeling better than I did last week. Last week I was really sick, right? This week I'm still have a cough and everything. I'm not coughing right now because I think my cough suppressant has not worn off yet. But yesterday I was just coughing up clear stuff. Like, so I think I'm in like that post-viral period. So I think that I need to like get out and run around and those sorts of things, and that'll help with that. So yeah, well, they're still pushing up in the treasuries. Let's make note here. Normally I don't care too much, but okay, 15. Overnight high. Just making note of that. Oh, look, they moved me over to TweetDeck. TweetDeck preview again. They really want me in. All right, I'll add a column. So where's my lists? I need my squawks list. And then I need my traders list. I don't think the traders list is public, is it? I don't know, maybe it is. Traders. Yeah. And then I like to have just my home timeline. Oh, no, not. Well, maybe it is the home timeline. I think you do home timeline, but not recommended. You want like latest tweets first. There we go. Okay. And then I want one for a search. Hashtag ZNF, maybe. Okay, so they have improved it a little bit. A little bit. Display. Display. Okay, so they have... I can make the visual scale very narrow. Default column width. Narrow? Medium? Oh... Oh, interesting. So I can actually fit more on the screen than I could before if I wanted to. But I think that I actually... Now, what about wide? Oh, no, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Medium it is. Small previews. Okay, Elon, you finally convinced me. You finally convinced me to switch over. I don't like that this is in here. Can I get that to go away? Can I get that to go away? Wait, has anybody messaged me interesting things? Oh, I have message requests. Let's see who wants to message me. Spammers. Oh, this was a long time ago. Okay. Is there a way to hide that? There is not. Well, whatever. Whatever. Also, I do not like the fonts. What do you guys think? It's the font. Doesn't look to me like they actually changed anything about it. Oh. All right, well, we'll deal with it. Okay, let's get down to it then and see if there's any interesting activity overnight here. Discovery Trading. Been hearing lots of chatter about liquidity issues in Treasury futures driven by hedge fund basis trading. Granted, I've not been watching those books live, but I see no vacuums like in March, right around a quarter to have a tick to get 100 million notional done in 2s and 10s respectively. Yeah, so I do not see the liquidity issues in ZN at the moment, but I definitely see the liquidity being flighty. So I do not think it would take very much for this market to just like go into an absolute fit. And the problem that I see is that there are at least two things kind of lurking out there. One of them that I wouldn't even say is lurking is like an active unresolved problem that could like completely destroy this basis trade. Although I don't know which, like, what the end game of these base, like the point at which they converge and all that sort of stuff. If that happens before the whole debt ceiling problem or what. Right. But if we come back over here and we look at what we got going for this week, okay, we got core retail sales tomorrow. That's an important number. Building permits and housing starts is a medium-sized number. Unemployment claims, and then nothing Friday. So it's a much lighter week, and then after that, it gets really light, right? But you do get PCE on the Friday. Okay, so like, oh, and GDP. But you know, there's there's no Fed meeting or anything. Like, this is a period where I think that the market makers are going to clamp down on the volatility. I think that there's going to be a lot of selling volatility here. So, in fact, we're already, you know, so like, how would I react to that here in the treasuries? Is I would be looking for places to lean. I would be looking for leaners. That's what we should do, huh? Let's reset this in here. We'll keep an eye out and we'll try practicing the leaner. Because who knows? We could be moving into a market where that's the way that it goes for years. Right? I'd much rather be doing the basis trade than the leaner, but hey, you do what you can, right? Okay, well, let's come into Zero Hedge and see if they have anything to say about the New York Fed stuff. Oh, that's interesting. Nope, nothing yet. Oh boy, Soros is buying Vice News? Ugh. Like, I was not particularly interested in that news source before, but now I'm definitely not going to be. I find it, it's the world, not the world, my world, where being informed is important. It's harder than ever to be informed, I think, because there's just so much misinformation out there, number one, and less and less interest among people on the things that actually matter, And so there, like, especially if you want to be informed about what's going on with the Ukraine war, do not find battle reports very reliable right now. Like something gets blown up and they're all arguing about what it actually was. And there's like no way to know who's telling the truth. Because nobody provides any kind of like real evidence or real reporting anymore, And the US media doesn't seem too interested in being there and doing that. What's with that? I can remember in years past where it would be like the conflict in Ukraine, and even though the United States isn't involved, there'd be like 24/7 news coverage of it, right? I wonder whatever could be. Yeah. Well, I'm like catching myself. I'm like, well, I don't want to get too conspiracy theory here, right? But like, remember there was that whole thing about how you couldn't use propaganda on the American people, and then they took that out, and so everybody's saying now they are doing propaganda on the American people. And I kind of wonder if it's like they are intentionally not educating the American public on what's going on in Ukraine. Right? I don't know. I think we know enough about Ukraine to like make our bigger decisions that you and I might have to make in our real life, because it really does seem to me like how to put it, the Russians aren't losing, but they're not winning. It reminds me a lot of like, you can start getting advertisements for investing in Ukraine. No, wait, what? Is there really? I actually would be really, really interested in that. Oh, that's interesting. I want to invest in Ukraine. I mean, maybe not today, but like at some point. There was a time in my life when I thought no, it's WWE now, Mr. M, because they lost the they lost the lawsuit with the World Wildlife Fund. Yes, like thinking back on that, I'm actually like, how did they get away with being WWF for so long? Well, listen, everything. So this drives me crazy. Okay, like there are some parts of the world where nothing gets done without a little bit of corruption, right? Unfortunately. So here's a conspiracy theory that I believe in. I 100%, I mean, we have absolutely no evidence to suggest that this is the case or anything like that, but it's a conspiracy theory that I think is pretty likely. Okay, and the conspiracy theory is this. When you become president, there's like this movie or report or something like that they give you as you become president. And it gives you all of this information that isn't widely known among the public. I totally think that happens. And but I think the bigger thing is that you see it with basically every president. They will say things They are totally dedicated to it. And then they get in office and like they shut up about all of these things. And the things that you will find, it's called the Muppet Movie. And the things that they tend to abandon the most are foreign policy positions. Yeah, that sounds like crazy talk about. But I think that the reality of the world, let's say the reality of international relations is a lot more complicated than we in the American public want to believe, you know? And it's kind of a nasty deal when you have like people in the CIA and FBI like taking actions to support one political party over the other and things like that. That's not useful, because we need to be able to rely on those people to be unbiased and put the American public's interests at heart. And we can't do that if we feel that their actions are clouded by partisan decisions, you know? And that's something that's going on right now that we don't really get to talk about because the mainstream media doesn't care. Even though we know what's going on, you know? So like on the Ukraine thing, I'll see people say, well, Zelensky isn't like they call him, they say that he's corrupt. But I'm like, it seems to me like anybody that would be in power in Ukraine would be corrupt, and that Zelensky is a pretty good step in the right direction for them. You know? But if this conflict in Ukraine, if this conflict in Ukraine resolves itself to Ukraine's advantage, then I would absolutely 100% want to put money there, man, because they're gonna make a deal, man. They'll make a deal for sure. So I think it would be a good place to invest. And that's been an area that's like for a long time, and largely, in my opinion, because of Putin. But that's been an area that for a long time has been ready to just pop off and have tremendous growth, and it just gets held back by the decisions of stupid political leaders, right? Namely Putin. I wish I could go Jigsaw, do a free tick target every time a 4-digit hits the market. So, like you're saying, if 1,000 lots or more market sell, that you would want to enter in with a 4-tick target? Because you could totally program that in NinjaTrader. That wouldn't even actually be that difficult to program in NinjaTrader, to be honest with you. Although you'd have to do the reconstructed tape part. That's a little bit of a mess. Oh, well, so if you go and you watch my programming videos in NinjaTrader first, but there are some major. Okay, so there's a couple of parts. I wouldn't say that it's simple, like if you haven't done the programming at all, but like I could probably write it up really quickly. Yeah. So the first part is there is an on market data and there is an on market depth. So on market data occurs every time that volume comes in, every time that matches come in, and on market depth happens every time that there's a change to the level 2. So the first thing that you do is you build an order book using the on market depth, right? And then you can do the on market data method, and you can say like, if you have all of these data changes, but only one change in the level 2 at that particular price in between that time, then it was all one order. And that's kind of how you do the reconstructed tape thing. So then you could come down and, you know, every time that the reconstructed tape shows an order over 1,000, you come in and tell it to sell. And this would be some work, but pay me for the time. Yeah. So let me think. I don't know. So to be honest with you, I've kind of been avoiding doing, well, I did some work for somebody. It actually was so fun. I don't, you know what it is? I'm lazy. Because when I did this for, oh man. Oh, he's not here today, but he's here all the time. But his name escapes me at the moment. But I did some programming work with somebody. It was so much fun, and I did a lot of stuff. But the thing that I don't like about it is that, like, algorithmic trading is like a really iterative process. You know what I mean? That's so I don't find that it lends itself very well to contract work. Right? So like if I make an indicator and you 100% know this is the indicator that you want, you got all of the requirements and everything, and you get it all down, and then I make it, right? Then it's great. And then you get your indicator, and I can write that. I'm really, really good at writing that stuff, and I can get that stuff out pretty quickly, right? But what inevitably happens is the reason that you're asking for an indicator like that is because it doesn't exist yet. And then once it exists, you're like, oh, well, now I need to see this, and this, right? And you're constantly in that iterative process looking for an edge. Because if you don't have any idea that there's an edge in there, right, then really what you're doing is you're digging. And it's inevitable that you're just going to want to keep digging more and more and more, right? So that's why I've kind of avoided doing algorithmic trading contract work. Because I probably could, like, if I put myself out there as I'll program it for you, I could probably replace my day job and just do that full time, in all seriousness. But I think I would hate it. That's why I haven't done it. Because, like, I think contract work is great when somebody comes and you talk, you know, you set it up once and then you do the thing and then you're done. But when it turns into this, like, ongoing saga, then I'm like, oh. Because I feel like I'm putting a lot of, you know, effort into something for somebody, and eventually they're going to be disappointed because they don't actually have an edge. They're just guessing. You know what I mean? Maybe if there was like, maybe if we had like a study that said this thing would really work well and yada, yada, yada. Each time. Yeah, but you know, it's not even that, like, I can't, like when I did that with the last time, it was perfect. And the guy, I think it was John. I think his name is John. It was John. I just can't remember what he puts in here, but he was great. It was so much fun. I'm telling you, like, this is maybe I'm just being stupid. Maybe I'm just being stupid and holding myself back, but it was so much fun to make this indicator, and I actually made a couple of other things off of it that were really cool too. But I just didn't like doing it because he wanted to keep putting more and more and more into it. And, you know, like, we had things set up so that, like, if, you know, you wanted to do more, then this is what it would be, and this is how much, like, extra work you get to fix bugs and all that. So like, I felt like I got a pretty good solid contract put together. but I felt like that it wasn't something that he should be dumping more into, like take what you got and see what you got with it. But I don't know if there's really how much more edge you're gonna be able to squeeze out of it or whatever, And that's where it was that like again, it doesn't make sense as contract work, like in my opinion, it makes much more. I think that what would work for me better would be consulting rather than contract programming, right? Like, I want you guys to program it yourself, and then when you get stuck, you come to me for help, and then I help you do it. And for the most part, I've been giving people that kind of consulting for free. But I think that's a much better way of doing it, because then when you get the thing set up and you want to say, oh, I want to do this, because once you get something set up to where you can really really test it and everything, you're going to have millions of things that you're going to want to change. It's so much better if you're just doing it yourself, So like the thing that you're talking about. So I've avoided writing a reconstructed tape because I don't want to like duplicate features that Jigsaw has, So the things that I have are there are things that are similar to Jigsaw, but they're fundamentally different from what's in Jigsaw. Reconstructed tape would be like an essential element though, so I wouldn't want to like put that out and then you set it up. I know for a fact that the way that things go with the big lot changes, right? So like based on the evidence that we have, what you're talking about is actually probably a contrary indicator, right? Like what I would do, I think a trade that would make more sense, especially in current market environment, is if 1,000 lot goes through, wait like a few minutes and then fade it back to where that big lot went. That's a trade that's probably more likely to work. Like wait, see, wait, if there's not more trend coming in on it, then revert, because that's likely to create a liquidity hole, right? How is Bitcoin looking right now? Well, it's up on the day. It's up on the day. I can show you over here. Here's Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, much like the other markets, is kind of a little confusing price-wise, right? And then you get into all this thing that like Bitcoin is a very manipulated market, so there's not a whole lot of data that you can really divine from the chart anyways. But there are a lot of crazy things going on in Bitcoin right now, right? Like they've got these what do they call them? Ordinals, which are like NFTs, but they're actually stored on the blockchain, and that is like clogging up the blockchain, the memory pool. So like it's hard to use Bitcoin right now for transfers and so forth. Yeah, and then there's also been this thing on and off where a Bitcoin whale service of some sort reported that the government, like some of the government's wallets, moved money, and then they were like, oh no, actually it was wrong, oh no, actually it was right, and I stopped following that story, so I don't remember what the end result was, but we've had that happen a couple of times. And then there's also this whole issue that like there's like a court case with Coinbase and like everybody else. I tell you what, man. Yeah, I don't know the full terms. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not so sure that Bitcoin is the greatest market to be involved in right now. Certainly not for like day trading, unfortunately. Oh man, so we sold all the way off of that New York Fed manufacturing news. Yeah. I mean, what you want to do is you want to be in a market where you have information that can really tell you what's going to happen. If you're going to do like mean reversion trading, the E-mini might turn into a really good trade, or like shorting the VIX or something like that. That's kind of where I'm interested in looking at the moment, but yeah. But I mean, the crazy thing is that Bitcoin could shoot off again. You know, especially I think that you could definitely see something like what we had in COVID, where like if we have a recession in the second half of the year, you could see Bitcoin get absolutely clobbered and go to new lows, followed by like this insane miraculous rise, right? Like as soon as the Federal Reserve starts putting liquidity out there again, probably they buy it back up. Unless by that point the regulation is already to the point where nobody wants to touch it anymore. Nobody in the professional world wants to touch it anymore. Too much risk in ES and VIX? Well, I mean, we're back to where you can risk less than 10 points on ES. Or you can just go and look for a tick in ZN, right? Tick value is a lot. Oh, come on, you're so picky. There's a downside to everything, right? Looks like they're having a hard time getting much volume below 06. It looks like there's plenty of people willing to transact at 06. And there is some flattening going on too, by the way. Which, like, I mean, we did go through a period of steepening, but it didn't steepen out that much. So we're still at pretty insane amounts of flattening, right? I've been browsing around while I'm talking to you guys looking for stories to talk about this morning, but like there's not a whole lot of actual news. But the headline that I read there is Chris Murphy predicts popular revolt if SCOTUS strikes down gun control proposals. No, that's not correct. See, the left has an incorrect view of what the American public thinks about gun control because of what they present to the American public in surveys. When they do the surveys, they say, oh yeah, everybody thinks that there could be better gun control. But like if you were to actually like go into detail about what the gun control proposals were and why privacy and guns rights advocates were opposed to it, I think you would find that support evaporate. So to say popular revolt is just like such a ridiculous, man, you're really stuck in a bubble. No, I'm not. I'm very concerned. So like what's going on in Canada right now with gun control is insane to me. What happened in Australia with gun control is insane to me. And I'm really grateful that we live in a country where, you know, it's protected in the Constitution and the Supreme Court has protected our constitutional right. Because I think if they tried what they're doing in Canada over here, they would strike it down and say, no, that's trying to restrict people's gun rights. Man, I gotta not think too hard about what's going on in Canada, man. That one kind of, my mom is Canadian. It kind of makes me mad. Justin Trudeau really has turned out to be a little dictator, man. And it's totally like he's not really very a competent leader, and they kind of try and control the media and what is being said out there and everything to protect him because he's not a very competent leader. You know what I mean? It was a very, I mean, like, the thing is, I was surprised when he was able to win a second term. I remember it being somewhat close, right? Although I don't know if their other candidate was that good. Whoever it would, the guy that seems to be leading the charge now that would probably run against him, I think would just clock him. But man, ever since then, it's been like, you know, it's not hidden anymore. He's just going crazy with it. Is that true though? Is what true? Little. I got to admit, I totally see the resemblance, man. I think that conspiracy theory totally plausible. I think it's very plausible. Is Justin Trudeau true? No, he's a real person. If that's what you're asking, yes. Justin Trudeau is a person. He's a politician, though. Nah, these guys got it wrong. I'm gonna have to make a post on Reddit. There are a bunch of real Fed speakers today. Yeah. I mean, we already had Goolsby, right? And Kashkari should be speaking at the moment. Oh, did I not? Yeah, I'm not getting... I haven't seen anything too important come across my squawks yet. Oh, Bosick is speaking. That one I don't have on my calendar. Yeah, I haven't seen any kind of real market reaction to them. I would suspect though that they would have to say something incredibly unexpected for the treasury market to really take notice of it. Because I think what's happening now is this basis trade is just going to become really dominant. Like up until now, there was a bunch of other stuff going on to make it be like, well, I mean, that's a force out there, but I don't know if it's the key thing driving the market. I really think now, and I don't know how long this lasts for, if it's just until the end of the month or if this goes on for all summer or what, but I think that now the basis trade is going to become very dominant unless there's some sort of big blow up with the debt ceiling, which we should be keeping an eye out for new information on today, right? Because the last Friday they postponed their meetings because staffers were working on it, so I think we should be getting some information today and tomorrow about where they're at, and then they'll maybe meet again. Okay, let's answer this Reddit thread. The reason it seems from looking at forums that there must be more than 10% profitable traders is a matter of time frame. Over a 1 to 2 year period, you'll actually find quite a few people that are just lucky or catch a certain trade. None of them. They're just lucky and catch on to a certain trade at the right time. Over a 5-year period, though, very few make it. And then I'll add another comment on here. You'll notice that the majority of people on Reddit claiming to be profitable are newly profitable. I haven't run into anybody with And did you see the feds Okay, so a question about that one. I don't like talking about this. How do you know that it's not just a what do we want to call them? Yeah. How do you know that it's not just a really well organized ethno-nationalist group? You know, if you got like 100 members or whatever, and you're well funded and you can pay for everybody to have the same costume and flag and everything, I don't think that it has to be the FBI. I do find it odd that, well, no one shows up. Yeah, nobody shows up, because do they ever say when they're doing it? I don't know. I haven't been there to see them, so it's not like I'd be able to tell. But I bet you though, like here's the thing, is that's not the way that the FBI works, right? Like what would really be going on is like there's like 2 or 3 guys that are in the leadership there that are in the FBI, right? That's the way that it would actually work. Is like some guy starts this movement, it becomes a concern for the FBI, so they get informants, and then they do such a good job at it that you end up with more informants in there than actual genuine people. Yes, that's usually how it goes, right? I do find it extremely curious and convenient that Joe Biden kind of pulls that whole, oh, this is the greatest threat to our democracy sort of thing, which kind of seemingly out of nowhere, because like honestly, it feels like we haven't heard anybody talk about that since his fire and brimstone speech, where like the background was red and he was super angry and all that. Like after that happened, they kind of shut up about it, and then he brings it up out of nowhere, and it just so happens the next day there's a protest, but I guess the point is I can't prove that anything's going on in there, but it's more significant that so many people suspect that it's a psyop by feds. I think is more important than the truth or falseness of what what's actually going on there. It probably doesn't matter. What matters is, I think, what I think is a more not just interesting but more useful observation is that nobody in the country seems to believe it, right? Like the trust in our intelligence agencies is so low that everybody thinks that the CIA and FBI are making it up. That's like a really telling thing, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I would DC Verox. That's what I would expect they should do. I mean, again, it was, like what happened with the whole Charlottesville thing, right? That, the police totally kind of did a few things there in that situation to kind of inflame the situation, didn't they? They did. They straight up, they did, right? I am so frustrated by the amount of effort in the last 5 to 6 years that has been spent by Democrats complaining about how the very foundations of our country are under attack, and and we're undermining the trust in our institutions and elections and things like that, when the thing that is undermining public confidence the most in public institutions is a better, you know, I guess I should say it at executive branch type, or, you know, things that are under the purview of executive branch, police, FBI, CIA, intelligence agencies, all of these doing things that appear to be partisan. That is undermining public confidence in institutions more than anything else. Well, if they arrested them, then you should be able to go and find mugshots, right? And if there aren't any mugshots, then I guess they weren't actually arrested. So much buying in ZN and so little progress. Yeah. It's something like 8,000, isn't it? Honestly, I'm kind of interested in who would be willing to buy that much at market. So that amount of buying at market doesn't seem to match up. I guess it could just be the natural ebb and flow of things, as it's been at 06 for a really long time. I don't know. I don't like the sound of my voice today. I definitely still sound sick. You think they can even get away from 06? I guess I should like clear this again, because like I said cleared it up here and then it just went down. But now it's been in that area for a long time. That means it's gonna crater. I don't know. I don't really have anything to tell me like flows are going to be coming in or out here. I think the most likely scenario is we bounce back up to 09 and then come back to 06 again. Oh, you got 05? You're lucky that you got 05. Or sorry, 05 half. Nah, I don't think it's gonna crater. You shouldn't have said anything. Now they're like, oh, we gotta go and get Uzi. I might be able to, you know, like, well, I'll take a look at fading this back to 06. We'll see. I have to say, it has, there is some like market buying coming through in ZN that I'm not sure what is being driven by. I haven't heard anything coming from my news squawk. The lack of follow through. Yeah, well, I don't know, like in this market, well, I don't know. The trade that you made doesn't completely make sense to me, to be honest with you. Because if I had caught 05 half, I would probably already be out of it. Probably would have been looking only for like a tick or two, you know? Like this whole thing right here was like, wait, I kind of came in thinking today would be like an 8 tick range kind of day. Probably would have been if not for Fed it wasn't Fed, it was New York manufacturing, wasn't it? Empire State Manufacturing. Hey, you know what? While I'm thinking about it, because I made it, you know what was funny? I did end up making, doing the editing and everything so that we could make a TikTok or a YouTube short out of the trade that we took on Thursday or Friday. It was Friday, wasn't it? It was Friday. And when I looked at it, I was like, the action here isn't actually that interesting, you know? I moved down like 5 ticks in the section or whatever, right? My reaction was more funny than the actual market, you know? But let's come over and see how those did. Oh, not bad. 517. I guess I need to post more videos like that, man. They seem to do well. Relatively speaking, for YouTube Shorts at least. It has permission to cross the whole range again. We could probably catch it from like 05 half to 06 probably a couple more times. I'm a little bit nervous about it because I feel like it's been there for too long already. You know, but oh, and the S&P 500 is already open. Looks like they took a little bit of a sell on the open there. Yeah, I think that we have this deep-seated desire for the market to move, you know, because you notice that even the times where I'm like pretty confident that it's not going to go, I'm always like, well, but it could, you know, like there's always this, I want it to do it, right? I really don't think that I think that this move up and down on the open was a really good opportunity that I missed, and that this is likely to just be a leaner. Like they were clearly leaning on 06 earlier, right? So the trade that makes sense is buy 05 half and sell 06. Or 06 half. You're so lucky. But given that I'm seeing like 2000s up and everything, you might not even be able to get to. And you have to think, so like the way that you do this is there's 1280 on there on the bid, right? So if I bid, at least 1,000 contracts will have to trade through at 05 half in order for me to get filled, right? And how many contracts are we actually trading in a minute? It's not enough. It's not enough. So might not be, you know, you kind of have to wait and hope that you get filled on a spurt or something, and then it reverts. Oh, here I'm getting something now. McCarthy. It seems they want a default more than a deal. Says they need a deal by the weekend based on timelines. There's only one trade on the debt ceiling. Buy if/when the market freaks out, because at the end of the day, the U.S. is going to pay its debts. Says Forex Live. I think it'd be like way more complicated than that if it goes down. Like you have a debt ceiling showdown, and then people just pile into treasuries. It blows up the basis trade, liquidity evaporates, and then it'll just be all out mayhem, because there will be reasons for people to be saying, oh, they're going to buy the treasuries and they're going to sell the treasuries, and it's going to be a complete mess, guys. like if something happens, it'll more than make up for all of the slowness that we're seeing today, right? Oh, look, that's a pretty good uptick now at they touch 08. There you go. Yeah, that sucks, dude. Hey, when you scratched that, did you at least make a tick? Did you at least make a tick? Yeah, it's magic. Please tell me you at least made a tick, right? I don't know. I did say I said like it could come to the VWAP and then back down, right? No. Okay, if it crosses the whole range, then that will really be wild, right? I'm betting it'll just be a VWAP bounce, but let's see. Because I've got VWAP and seller cost basis at 08 half. In fact, on sim here, I will put my ego on the line here. Oh, come on, no fill. I won't put my money on the line, but I'll put my ego on the line. How's that? And it looks like I missed the fill. I do think I missed it. Oh, okay. Empire Fed manufacturing survey collapsed in April, the biggest drop ever after the stunningly surprising upside surge in April. The Empire Fed manufacturing survey has collapsed back to reality in May, crashing 42.6 points to negative 31.8 from 10.8 the month before. Outside of the COVID lockdowns, this is the biggest month-over-month drop ever. The swings versus expectations is clear in the chart below. April was a total head fake. Most problematically, stagflation is screaming loudly again. The orders index also slid by the most since April 2020, hitting the lowest level since the start of the year. Shipments gauge plummeted more than 40 points. New York Fed's gauge of prices paid increased after matching the lowest level since 2020 a month earlier. The measure of prices received was little changed. The employment gauge indicated headcount shrank by less than the prior month. Hours worked also contracted. The index of factory inventory shrank to the lowest since October 2020, while unfilled orders also eased. Zero Hedge comments, not exactly what the Fed wants to see, and this is just the first of several regional Fed bank factory indexes set for release in the coming weeks. Yes, but the big caveat that we should put on this is that manufacturing has not been looking very good all year, and services have kind of been making up for it, right? So the situation that we are in currently is really bad for American manufacturing. By the way, S&P 500 selling a little bit again here, so we may be getting a little bit of risk-off correlation going here. I'm kind of mad that I missed that because the trade was correct. If I had had the lots out there, totally would have gotten filled. I just want to go outside and run around a little bit. I'm feeling like I feel restless like that today. Sitting here, this slow market is not helping, is it? I maybe I shouldn't be saying that. I'm probably making you guys feel like that too. Talk about conspiracy theories instead. We can talk about aliens. You know what? The alien thing. There should be more information out there about that, and it's disappointing that we haven't gotten more. I was like, you got a next shoe is gonna drop, and then it fails, and then it dries up. I saw this thing the other day where a guy was talking about Roswell. He was saying, oh, it must have been this type of plane. No, it was a weather balloon, guys. It was a weather balloon, and the reason they were so secretive about it was because the weather balloon was allowing them to detect nuclear detonations. That's why they were all. That's why they're kind of lying about it. That it was just a weather balloon when it was clearly military. And like we know that now, like we have the government documents behind it. So I don't know what this guy was on about. I was like, man, well, you know so much. You would think that you would know this. Okay, well, whatever. They're gonna give him another chance. All right. We are the most advanced species? Okay, sure. You know, I always come back to, I think that humans' real great invention was storytelling. The ability to pass information between generation, that's what really truly separates us from other species. And I saw this thing the other day where a guy was saying, you know, like when you're talking about like jobs, really what happens, because there's a lot of randomness to the hiring process, you know. And so his theory was, and I thought it was a really good one, was that companies hire the people that fills the story incorrectly for them. Not incorrectly, but they fill in the story correctly for the company. So the company wants to tell a certain story about itself. They're going to hire people that match that narrative the best. I thought that was a really clever insight that could help you finding jobs, right? It also is kind of interesting thing because I think that when you're talking about day trading, you know, people assume a certain narrative, right? I think the narrative they assume is the same kind of narrative that every, you know, get rich scheme has, which is, you know, one day I just decided to do this thing and then it became a $1 million business, and you can do it too if you just click right now. I don't think that that's what it is. I don't think that that's the narrative of you know, the local, the scalper. I think that the story of the scalper is you come in and you struggle for years and years and years and years, and it's absolutely stupid and crazy, but you just absolutely love it, so you keep doing it until you get moderately successful at it. You know? It's maybe not the story that everybody wants to tell about themselves. It's a little bit of an autistic story, right? Sounds like something somebody's autistic would do. Well, I'm a little bit concerned about fading this because S&P 500 appears to be in risk off mode, right? And some of the rise here in the treasuries could be from that. Cool. Manipulate people. Okay, great. I mean, I'm probably the worst person to be. If you want to manipulate people, I'm probably the worst person to be talking to, right? You know, I can come into a, you know, like my wife was watching this, it was like Blind Love or something like that show on Netflix. Well, the kids, the one of the girls wanted to watch it, so they're watching it. And they're like, why is the guy being like this? And I'm like, well, he's saying that because he wants you to acknowledge, you know, that it takes a little bit of sacrifice to get into a relationship, and he wants you to thank him for making those sacrifices. And they didn't like that, but like, I'm sitting here like, I mean, I feel like when I'm watching shows that I very clearly understand what's going on, but like when it's in real life, you know, and it's like in the moment, I don't have the ability to analyze and think about what's going on like that at all. Right? Maybe if I already knew ahead of time what I was, but you know, I have to have the time to like sit and analyze it. Well, see, so like if you wanted to manipulate people, I'd be like the worst person at trying to manipulate people, right? I think that's why I have such a reputation of integrity and trust that I've been able to build. I don't think that it has anything to do with like, oh well, you're just such a trustworthy guy and you've proven to us through everything that you do that you're a very trustworthy person. I mean I have done that, but I really think what it comes down to is that everybody knows that I would just be so shit at trying to manipulate anybody or having any guile, you know. I think that's really what it's about. Oh man, I didn't get filled on another one. Well, that's okay. I still got it 2 times. Oh, not bad. I'm going to assume since Uzi said that he didn't take the 1 tick, that means I've made more than him. Oh yeah, he says it right there. Got me beat. Manipulative people are not necessarily bad or untrustworthy. I would prefer the non-manipulative person. I don't know what you mean by that, but because so actually no, I'm gonna put my foot down on that. So to me, integrity is about more than just like, I think when you think, okay, what would be somebody that has integrity? What would they do? Right? Because this is one of our key values is integrity. Okay. Integrity doesn't just mean that you don't lie to people. Okay. I don't think that that's what integrity means. I think that integrity means that when you interact with somebody, that you take upon yourself the responsibility of acting in a way that is in their best interests, and to not have a conflict of interest without making them aware of it, and so on and so forth, right? So it's not just about lying. If you're telling somebody true things, but you're being selective about what you're choosing to tell them so that they'll make a decision in your favor, I don't think that that's integrity, right? Right? But Seth, I just don't have the capacity for it. Like I cannot see what's going on in a social situation quickly enough to, you know, that if I even saw something like that, I'd even be able to take advantage of it, you know? They're already to 2 million. Well, I'm not surprised, but I don't like when you really think about it, 2 million's not that much. You think that they'll convict him? I don't know. I haven't dug too deep into the laws on it. Like the thing is, like here's the thing. Okay, I have dug into this more in laws than I realize. Okay, so in New York, you can have like you can act in self-defense, right? And it could even go as far as killing somebody in self-defense, yes. If it's in but you know, there's certain sort of things that you kind of have to take into account beforehand, like what the other guy's behavior was and all of that. But I don't think that this one is quite as clear cut of a case. So like the Kenosha shooting, for instance, that one was like, it was so obvious from the very get-go how that was going to play out, that guy had self-defense, right? With this subway thing, well, he choked a guy out and it ended up killing him. Could that amount to like manslaughter? You know, I think it could be a tough call. Will it survive in New York City jury? I think that there are plenty of people in New York that are sick of being assaulted by crazy people on the subway and would appreciate if somebody came and defended them and so forth. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty obvious that whatever happens to the guy, that he's going to get a pardon anyways, right? There's more people that are afraid of what will happen if they don't convict. I don't know about that. I know that they've been trying to turn it into like another racial issue and everything, but I don't know if that one's really actually. Okay, well, can you not do a federal pardon for that? Maybe you can't. Maybe you can't. Yeah, the New York governor wouldn't pardon him. That's for sure. No, but anyways, like only conservatives are talking about this, right? Like this is like AOC is talking about it, but like I don't see people on Reddit talking about it, for instance. Well, not Biden, but like, let's say that he gets sentenced to 16 years in prison or whatever, then during that time period, he's almost certainly going to get a pardon. Right? The chances of getting a pardon from a Republican president in the next 5 years is pretty high, I think. Because if you don't get a Republican this next election, you're almost, you know, the really high chance you do it the next one after that. Sure is. Did you see that poll? Oh no, we talked about that last week, right? Where Biden was losing to both the Republican challengers. Biden is super unpopular, man. And like the thing is, again, like the what really put Biden over the top last election was the youth vote, and I think that they're very likely to stay home. Like the youth isn't going to turn out in droves to support Biden. They're just not. Yeah, but was he losing to Trump in the polls before everything started? I think that Trump probably was ahead of him in polls most of the time, largely because of name recognition. But yeah, it wasn't until the very end that things kind of flipped, wasn't it? Okay. Who says that they won't? Let me tell you something, man. The Republican Party is reactionary. Almost everything that you see from the Republican Party is a reaction to something else that they've seen. It's always these are not the group of people that are like at the forefront of anything ever. That the party itself, that is, right? Okay, so every tactic that they use is something that they learned from the left. And what happens is there will be a significant instance of them doing it on the left, and then the right will start doing it. And then they get all mad at the right doing it when it's like, well, yeah, but they learned it from you guys, right? So yeah, you don't think that Republicans won't? I mean, if the Democrats are doing it, then the Republicans will do it. And the Republicans are already working on getting together a big ballot harvesting organization. So yeah, it's just the current Republican Party. See the issue that you've had in the Republican Party as of late, and this was long before Trump, okay, was that that the party has become anti-intellectual because it is basically started to become a populist movement that is against the establishment, and anybody that is been dedicated enough to pursue these sorts of things like public policy, like academically, right, has to have become a part of the establishment. So anybody that is like really understands the policies and really wants to talk about that sort of stuff, and they probably, frankly, maybe their prescription on policies is wrong, okay, but the problem is because you've built up your movement around being against that, when the Republican kind of became more populist, they didn't replace the intelligentsia, if that makes sense, right? Like usually what happens is you have a shift in the party, and then people start going to school and like studying and putting their theories to the test and doing all of this research and everything, so that eventually you can say, hey, look, here's all of this information that we have that could help us make a better policy, right? The Republican Party doesn't really have that anymore. Frankly, the Democrat Party doesn't either. But right, so we've basically gotten ourselves to a point in the country where like there's no like real policy wonks out there, you know, like Newt Gingrich is like the last remaining policy wonk in the Republican Party, right? And so when you don't have those people doing the research, then what the party ends up doing is completely reactionary. And I mean, it's like knee-jerk reflexes, they can't help themselves sort of reactionary. And you can see it. So for instance, one of the things that's going on in Republican circles is a push to get rid or a push to get rid of divorce at will, I guess you could say. What is it that they call it? To eliminate no fault divorce. That's what it is. Eliminate no faults divorce. It seems to me like it's a small group of Republicans pushing it, and that everybody's idea of what getting rid of no fault divorce would be is like completely different. Okay, but like there's like a bill in Texas, and the bill that's being proposed in Texas sounds insane to me, right? And why is that? Well, it's a reaction to something that's going on, and they don't really have anybody sitting there going like, here's like a good policy for us to support and everything. So they just knee jerk, oh, let's just push this thing through, even though we don't know anything about it, whether it would be a good idea. I don't like free money. I mean, when you really think about it, is I don't know. Here's a question for you to consider. Who is the institution of marriage really for? The state? I don't know about that. Seems to me that at this point the state would love everybody to just be single. They'd pay more taxes and they'd have more control over people. Yeah, you get more leverage over single moms than you do married households. So much so that it makes more sense for them to like subsidize single moms. I don't know if that's the case in the United States. Yeah. But that's maybe kind of besides the point. If you're getting into it, if you and your partner are considering getting married, which one of you does the institution of marriage serve more? Right? Because a man would think, well, it's a risk to get into a relationship and to settle down with one woman, so I, need to be protected from certain things, and so if they are legally married to me, that perhaps protects me somewhat, right? I think that's what some guys think when they're getting into it, but that's clearly like not the case at all, right? In fact, it's starting to get to the point. So like one of the things was, for a long time it used to be like women would get like all of the child rights and all that sort of thing, or there would be like alimony, right? So alimony only gets rewarded like 10% of the time. Most states have like default 50-50 custody or 60-40. So like it's almost like there's not any, So like a lot of the complaints that I see from people that have to do with like child payments and stuff like that, but you would be dealing with those problems regardless of whether you were married, right? So those lows have to break. You would think it'll happen, right? But it seems like they're much more interesting on leaning on it short than leaning on it long, huh? You'll have to convince quite a few people to puke there if it's gonna. I don't know. 1817 at 05 half isn't bad. That's enough that I'm afraid to put a bid at 05. I think the decision parameter of family is more defined and can be predicted more easily, so you know what they will do and what they want, easier to handle. I don't know, man. So like, yeah, I come back to like, who does it serve more, and then the result that I come to is that the way the laws are evolving are to a point where it doesn't really serve anyone. That it's just a big legal ceremony that doesn't really do a whole lot for you. other than for like medical benefits, right? And ergo, we shouldn't be surprised if we see less people taking advantage of it, right? So from one perspective, kind of makes sense to maybe give marriage back its teeth a little bit, right? But the rule that I see proposed seems crazy to me. Like you don't have a situation where the woman wants to get divorced and she can't. That doesn't sound, that's not going to go over very well, right? So the point is that there's this policy that some Republicans out there are pursuing that it's 100% reactionary. Like there aren't very many people in the Republican Party sitting and thinking deep about policy and what would be like the best thing to do in this situation and everything. It's just politicians going like, oh, well, there's this problem, I'll propose a law. I don't know, right? And I mean, Democrats are, I think, in a similar sort of a situation. But it's a little bit different because Democrats have had this ideological thing that they want to do for such a long time. Something that's very ideological but doesn't line up with, like the best example of this is housing. Oh my gosh, housing. Because rent controls, we know, do not work. Like there is not a single, you'll be hard pressed to find a single economist that will tell you that rent controls work, right? And this is something that we have hard empirical evidence on. Like there's pretty hard data showing that rent controls don't work very well. In fact, the data is that the only thing that really works is building more housing, right? And yet the Democrats continue to push those policies. It's a thing in New York. It's a thing, in all of these Democrat places where like rents are going like super crazy. This is because of their poor policies, right? So they're not in policy wonks for different reasons. But either way, we end up with we don't really have very good policy in our country right now. Well, look, there's a big order at 06 half. There's a big offer now. I'm highly suspicious of that. I think it's more likely that he'll bust it through there and then disappear and let it come right back up, right? And it doesn't look like anybody's falling for it either. Like I'm not seeing them sell 06 aggressively or anything. Okay, well, 1275 at 06. The big order died. When it ticked down, the big order disappeared. So was that a spoof? I don't know. Could have been. It hasn't ticked since then. Oh, man. You want to play it again? I don't know, this game that they're playing is kind of fun, isn't it? I'm still being a little bit like cautious about it because I don't know how much of an edge I actually have in that game, but I did pull 2 ticks out of it, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, well, you know, if I was just trading full ZN and I was taking 2 of those a day, I'd probably be really happy. Okay, so the way that I would put it, Walter, is that if the market is moving because of the Federal Reserve, they tend to move together. Whereas if they think the Federal Reserve is going to be reacting to the market, they move opposite of each other. Okay, so like an example would be the Federal Reserve comes out and says that they're going to reduce interest rates. Like something bad happened and we're going to reduce interest rates. You should see treasuries buy, equities buy, right? Because they're going to be like, oh, yeah, well, that's going to lower interest rates is going to mean higher prices for treasuries. And then that's going to provide more leverage for people to be able to buy stocks. And so they're going to go and buy stocks, right? On the other hand, if they think that the market is going to force the Fed's hand, for instance, we have a jobs number that is really good or something like that, then you could see, oh, this is really good for the economy, so I buy stocks. But this is, you know, because it's so good for the economy, we're going to see interest rates rise more, right? Now, we haven't been in a situation where that kind of inverse correlation comes in as much over the last 10 years because the interest rates have been so low, right? But now we have started to see some of that, and we saw a little bit of it today where it's like the S&P 500 moves down and you see the treasuries move up a little bit, right? So the correlation changes and it depends on what's moving the market, right? The reality is that, you know, an event may cause a certain flow to come in here and a certain flow to come in here. And so you kind of have to just know, okay, how does this event affect the flows for that individual instrument, right? And you have to work them out and then you'll see the correlations, right? So where it will get really interesting is if we have a debt ceiling crisis, which what we heard this morning doesn't sound very comforting. You know what? I need to refresh this page because I don't know if it's actually giving me the news squawk here. I haven't heard them at least. But anyways, so if there's a default, one of the first things that you might see is a flight to safety to treasuries, which is kind of like counterintuitive because you think, well, if there's a debt ceiling and there's a default, then that would mean people would demand higher interest rates from the American government. So wouldn't that cause prices to plunge? Well, except for that, you probably see a lot of people go into the treasuries, right? But then there's this whole basis trade, and if that blows up the whole basis trade, right, then you're going to see like the liquidity evaporate. So you see this huge move up and liquidity evaporate, and then after that it'll just be mayhem. And the problem is that after that initial move, the flows get a lot more complicated, right? Because there are points at which, like, when the government actually like straight up defaults on certain issues and so forth, probably they do sell, right? And so you could see points at where it would shift from day to day and everything. It'd be really wild stuff, you know, and the correlations would be very confusing. So well, market's still pretty quiet. Oh, you know what? This didn't even pick up on my radar until now. I was just looking at my market analyzer, but wheat and corn are up big. Wheat up 3% today, corn 2.5%. Wow. Oh, that's not bad. Are you going to take it off at 06? Shouldn't have said that. I don't know. Maybe it could bust out the bottom. They sure seemed to take that 05 a little bit too easily. Didn't hold, but another one is gold versus the US dollar. Yeah. The gold versus the dollar is a pretty strong correlation. It doesn't change very much. But the correlation between equities and treasuries is probably the most complex one. It's too far. Well, not my trade. It's hard for me to look at it and be like, not comment on it. I'm sorry. I don't want to like affect your trade. But I'm still of the mind of, I can get like maybe 1 to 2 ticks in here around 06. Looking for it to break out the bottom is, I don't know if that's going to happen. Not saying that it's not going to happen. Okay, this I'm actually yeah, see Walter, I wouldn't think of it as like, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of the different instruments and then this is correlated to this way, and I'm going to memorize them all. That's not the way to think about it. The way to think about it is, what are the kinds of environments that lead to certain flows in each of these instruments? So like I can come in and I can say there's a risk off, risk on. So when it's risk off, you sell all the things, and when it's risk on, you buy all the things. Except for the dollar. The dollar moves opposite of that, right? But yeah, you get what I mean. And so then you can kind of look at it and you can say, okay, so in this environment, because it's risk on, people are going to buy risk assets, right? And interest rates are going to be low. Then you see buying come into here because of this, and you see buying come into here because of this, right? And then you know what the correlations are that way through an understanding. It's much easier to memorize, by the way, too, right? We sold the hell out of that new spike, you think? Well, okay, but question, Mr. Ball. Why did we sell that new spike? So I keep seeing this news story that like let me see here. Okay, yeah, he just straight. Okay, so here, I'm gonna show you guys this. And pause the music for a second. I'm gonna show you guys this. Okay. Pause.
I still think we're far apart. It doesn't seem to me yet that they want it. It just seems that they want to look like they're in a meeting, but they're not. They're not talking anything serious. And in the meantime, we just watched the CBO come out and say we're $100 billion further in debt. And so seems more like they want a default than a deal to me.
Do you think that he should be going on this foreign trip on Wednesday if you guys don't have a deal coming out on Tuesday?
Look, I think we've got to have a deal done by this weekend to be able to have a timeline to be able to pass it in both houses. He hasn't taken it serious, all that waited 100 days to meet.
Thank you.
I still think we're
So to summarize here, McCarthy walking through the Capitol being interviewed says that it sounds to me like he wants a default more than a deal. Pretty telling comment. That says to me that the chances of a default, quote unquote, is much, much higher than we realize. From the way that's going. I don't know. There still seems to be, I think that everybody seems to think that like the Republicans will just like magically give in at the last second. I don't think it's gonna happen that way. Oh, that's funny. Insider politics. Trump's advisor showed him a tweet from AOC to fire him up during the commercial break of CNN's town hall. No, it doesn't really matter. Can't trade in. No, I don't. No, I don't think you understood my point. Okay, so the question that we should always be asking ourselves is, what is driving the orders? What is causing the flows that we saw? Okay, so we saw a big move up off of the Empire State Manufacturing Index absolutely collapsing. Okay, so that's a pretty bad number and everything. That would be pretty impactful. Even one that I would expect to see like some follow through on. And people saying, oh, look, this is like real proof that the economy is not very good, right? But then what happened? They sold down through it. Okay, but key point. Look at how did it play out? Was it market orders? Did like market selling come into the market here to push it down? Well, off of that initial one, that might have just been those guys profit taking. But then through the rest of this has actually kind of been more buying than selling on market orders, and the offer's just been absorbing it all. So why would somebody be absorbing it like that? Is the question, right? Well, here's my theory. My theory is that that there is like a really massive basis trade out there. So they're saying that the treasuries are higher than the cash, and so they're selling the treasury and buying the cash bonds and trying to make the difference in the basis between those two. And when those things come to a point when they're due, those two numbers should be equal to each other, and then then you've made your money, right? So what that means is that anytime that we see like a move up in here, there's like a reason for these guys on the basis to sell it. And the end result is like a lot less volatility and offers being a lot stronger, right? That's why the way that I played this both times was wait for it to pop up here and then sell a few and then take it back off at 06 where there's the balance, right? That they moved up and came back because of the news doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to puke down through the lows, because the whole thing is going to be that they're probably going to keep volatility relatively tight. In fact, if you do see a break of the lows, which totally could happen, I think that something that you might see is a little bit of a stop run and then it snap right back up. There's totally a possibility, right? That's what I'm trying to point out. Is that what we know about the flows today kind of suggests that things are going to be tight. But I don't know. I think that the news about the debt ceiling thing is a reason to buy. Market's not reacting to it right now. It seems to me like that could be a reason to buy. I'm looking at my face and it seems like my lighting is off somehow. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you know why? That's better. That's much better. Just needed to bring that other light a little closer. What's this? Ostic says he doesn't see rate cuts at least through 2023. Geez, you know what? We haven't said anything about the CNN town hall with Trump. What day was that? Was that like last Thursday? I haven't talked about that at all. That was like, what a disaster for CNN that was. Oh my gosh. Like before all of this, I was thinking, well, you know, Biden's pretty unpopular, but I think Trump is pretty unpopular too. So I think that there should be a lot of room for a challenger to come in and possibly beat Donald Trump, right? And is it Ron DeSantis? Oh, I don't know. Is it Nikki Haley? Well, it doesn't seem like Nikki Haley is actually running to be president. So I think she could have stood a chance, but maybe she don't believe in herself. I don't know. So I don't know if that's the one. And could somebody else jump in? Like, I don't know. I guess Rand Paul could try again. Ted Cruz could try again. I don't know. But it kind of looks like it's going to be Trump versus DeSantis, right? And in that situation, would Trump win? Well, everybody's kind of been saying that he's probably going to win, but I've kind of been like, well, don't be so sure. But then that town hall happened, and now it's kind of like, oh man, it's going to be. Now it's turning into like this slow motion, you know. Like a slow motion train wreck, like you know which direction it's going and what's about to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it but just kind of watch the carnage, sort of a thing. Although I don't know if it's going to be carnage or anything, but like like the further in you go into this, it's kind of like, can he be stopped? Can you actually stop him? I don't know. Let's not even say that he's going to become president. Okay. Can you stop Trump from becoming the Republican nominee? Not if you give him more moments like that, man. Oh. Like the part where she was like, you didn't, how come you didn't tweet about it? And he's like, actually, I did. At this time I said this, and at this time I said this, and he had the piece of paper out and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, like for real? He could, like, CNN could not have done that worse. They are so effing dumb if they really thought that was gonna come in and like hurt him. Oh man. It's just, Trump sure is entertaining. I mean, there's a fatigue after 4 years. There was fatigue, but he continues to be entertaining, man. And I'm really at this point, I'm not sure if you can stop him. Yeah, I don't know if you can stop him. And not only that, but I don't know if Ron DeSantis has been doing the best. Like he's been coming out with the PR and doing all of the moves and everything, but like I don't know if it's gonna do it. We're kind of sitting here, we're in this leaner spot at 07.5 again. Seeing a little bit of volume sneaking through in the 30-year there. Some machine gun selling. It's still there. It hasn't ticked down, but the machine gun is still there. I haven't seen a machine gun like that in a long time. Share your TweetDeck settings. Okay. I just turned visual scale all the way down, column width to medium, and media preview to small, and that was it. Oh, really? of the accounts. There is a... how do I get to that? Sorry, hold on. Twitter. Lists. There you go. Oh, no, Phil at 07. Come on. Come on. No, I'm not okay. You hear me sometimes when I'm laughing, you can kind of hear the like the lung passageways are like gunked up or something. I think that I actually am okay. I think that I had a little bit of a viral infection, and now I'm in like post-viral sensitivity phase. It seems to me that ever since the COVID thing, that now when you get sick, there's like, you know, there's this period after you get sick where like your body is still freaking out, and it takes a while for the cytokines to like chill out. You know what I mean? Okay. I guess I can kind of relax on this one here. I'm kind of on the lookout to see if there's maybe some passive bidding here, but there shouldn't be. On another note, people are priority. What do you mean by priority aligning numbers? There it goes. Oh. Can you change? I think maybe you can. I think if you come into it, if it's a thing, you should be able to come in here and say current at bid. Oh no, it's not current at bid, it's just bid depth. There you go. Oh, maybe you can't. Maybe you can't. I totally thought that you could change which direction they aligned to, though. That seems like that's something that would be pretty easy for them to add, though. That's just a WPF change. That's like an afternoon job. Because it doesn't require any change to the data, just to the WPF document. Okay, fine. I'm gonna take it off there because I'm seeing the signs of low resting liquidity 07. It'll take years probably. I don't know. The problem is that with the charts, that there's a lot of stuff that gets introduced by the charts, right? Like if that item was prioritized number 1, you'd have it tomorrow, you know? But I think they're chasing down all these crazy bugs and stuff in it. I'm still interested to see if they get back to 06, but I don't know, man. Like, this is just sim, but that's for such a tight ranged day. That's some of the best I've ever done. I think the action was decent for today, not too well. Well, one thing I will give you is that this range right here, normally in the treasuries, you know, it would just rotate back and forth across 06, right? This one has been going from 05 half all the way up to 08 half. So even though it's still a pretty tight range, it's moved quite a bit within that range. So you could have taken 4 out of that, you know, a couple of times and it would have been good. In fact, you could have done it at least 1, 2, 3 times, maybe. So those tight spots, those leaners, yeah. Because normally it'll just be 1 tick and then it's really like not worth messing with, right? And maybe part of that is because we did get that Fed manufacturing survey that went up really high and then reversed, right? But the key is just knowing the information to know that that's what it's going to do. And today we have that, right? In fact, we might have that for the next like few weeks, maybe even months. There's still fraught with risks because they totally like to do the stop runs and screw everybody over, but so far it seems like you can play it. I'm a little concerned about the upside potential here though. We'll see. 08 half is still like seller cost basis, so oh, I didn't even realize what time it was. I never heard the bong. It probably didn't start up. I should probably look into that. Hey guys, I should get going. So I will see you
New York Fed releases
tomorrow. In the meantime,
report on house
stay
market
excellent, team.
credit.